What's good, people? Time for another Magic Man review. This time we've got the Land of Osiris. Alright, it's by Stephen S. Mehler. This book was a good book, at the same time it was a bad book. It's frustrating for people like me to read books like this. And the reason why, and I've gone over it before in the past, the use of the word indigenous, it gets thrown around a lot in this book. A lot. Sometimes it's hard to know what this book, if it's his own research or his own predisposition, his own way of thinking. But it is a good book. It's about it's alternative theories about Egypt. He goes against the grain, which I do like, and it's one of the reasons I bought the book. He goes against the grain of a traditional Egyptologist, that the pyramids were built in the dynastic period, or the pre-dynastic period, and that they were built by organized slave labor. That to me is just absurd. And the reasons it's absurd is because you'll see the buildings that the dynastic Egyptians tried to build, and they couldn't do it. Even the Nubians weren't able to copy the Egyptian pyramids. They built pyramids, but they were smaller pyramids, or smaller little versions of them. When the Nubians came up and conquered England, and then they were forced back down and lived in Nubia, they built built pyramids down there. So that's one of the things. And he also goes over the theory that the pyramids were not tombs. They were actually energy devices. They were using the natural flow of water through granite and different types of rocks to create electrical charge. There's a lot of evidence that supports that. And even some of the Edgar Cayce's people, the ARE, they say, yeah, that's what it was meant for. They built that pyramid to be an electrical station, for a power station to heal people through electromagnetic currents and things of that nature. So it has a lot of good information, and the guy's no slouch. He's done his research. He's been to Egypt a lot, more than I've ever been. I've never been once. Then again, I don't think I would really. I'd go there, maybe. I don't know. But this guy's got, not only does he have the baby boomer narrative, he's got the baby boomer flower child narrative. That it's hard to get over sometimes. But if you're used to it, it's okay. It's a good book. The guy's done his research. But some of the stuff in here, when you read it, he gets this guy that's supposed to be some anointed master, the keepers of the ancient knowledge. And I'm thinking to myself, you're getting taken for a ride. I mean, the guy you're talking to, he knows his stuff. He knows about the area because he was born there. He's lived around it, and he's gotten different stuff, from there. But I don't know, sometimes something seems shady to me, and especially when they call them indigenous masters. Like, come on, bro. Yeah, go ahead with that stuff. You're not fooling anybody with that. To be fair, I think the author was calling him the indigenous master. The guy never referred to himself as a master of anything. One of the things in here that was very interesting to me is this wasn't his theory, but he passed on someone else's theory that Moses was an Egyptian priest, and he was a priest during the time of Akhenaten. If you don't know Egypt, the history of Egypt, you need to research that. Akhenaten was different from all the other pharaohs in that he worshipped the sun as a reference, as God, other to the more traditional Egyptians who worship the sun rays. See, the sun rays, the Egyptians didn't worship the sun. It's the sun rays. See, it was the sun rays that gave life to earth. It wasn't the sun itself. So he kind of went against the grain. And they're speculating that Moses was an Egyptian priest, and when they overthrew Akhenaten and put another pharaoh who was more traditional on there that Moses left with some of his followers, and they morphed into the Hebrews, something of that nature. And that makes a little sense because one of the theories in the book is that the ancient Egyptians were a matriarchal society, and he was saying, well, this carried over to the Hebrews, to Moses, because they were a matriarchal society. And he says that's because Jews have female lineage, as to having a male-based lineage, like the father and son pass on the family, and in the way they do things, it's the female passes on the lineage. That is true. Jews do that, but Orthodox Jews are patriarchal. So just because you're passing the lineage on through the mother instead of the father doesn't mean you're a matriarchal society. That's his speculation. He doesn't know. He infers it because of his own point of view, his flower child narrative. So it's hard sometimes in this book to differentiate between the facts he's presenting and his own point of view. Okay? But that said, it's kind of good sometimes to get different points of view. Because you have, I forget what it's called. It's a type of bias where you just confirmation bias. If you're not looking at other points of view, sometimes you're just in a cycle of confirmation bias. You're only looking up information that you already approve of and you already think is good information. It's reinforcing your own, vision of how the world works. So, and I already knew that I already had speculation myself about Hebrews and their connection to Egypt, because the Ark is an Egyptian artifact. If you go to the Metropolitan Museum in New York, and they have to go to the Egyptian section, it is absolutely full of arks. Moses is an Egyptian name. It's not a Hebrew name. It became a Hebrew name, but Moses is an Egyptian name. And also, the Egyptians were circumcising their males before the Hebrews were. So they picked up a lot of that stuff when they're in Egypt. But it's good stuff in here. It's really good stuff. Yeah, but you have to really get past the flower child baby boomer narrative to really pull some good information out of this book. It was hard for me. It really was, because I had to kind of step back, start reading it again. It didn't take me long. It's not a really big book. I had to step back, just breathe. Don't worry. This guy's just a hippie, but he's putting out some good information. And the guy puts out some good information out there, but a lot of it is just speculation. But it's good to have alternative points of view. And would I read this book again? Probably not. Now, if I could get it from the library, yeah, I might. Thing is, though, I wouldn't read it a second time. One time's good enough. There are other books out there that delve with this kind of stuff. They're just as good, but not better. They're more scientific, and they don't put their, hey, I hate being white. Indigenous people are so much better than me type of stuff. I don't know why white people have the need to self-flagellate and beat themselves, okay? Nobody's buying it. I don't care. Maybe you want to look good and look in the mirror and think better of yourself, but you don't impress me. Why don't you just tell me the truth? Or at least give me some scientific evidence. Oh, one thing he didn't go over in here, and I was looking for it, it was the genetic evidence. See, when you have a mummy, there's DNA right there. So this whole theory that, these people were this and these people were that, they know what the Egyptians were. At least the dynastic Egyptians. And because they could do DNA tests on them. They were Semitic people. And some of them were intermarried with Asiatic people. Red hair comes from Asia, people. It doesn't come from Europe. Europe is, Europeans are not indigenous to Europe. They invaded from Asia. Did you know that? Gotta do some more reading. Gotta do some more research. But it was an overall good book. Sometimes you have to go over. You have to overlook people's biases. That's all. I know I have my biases, and sometimes I try to break out my own confirmation bias to get new information, you know, because I'm a contrarian. I have to do that. But at the end of the day, humans are going to human. It's a decent book. If you can get it like a used copy off of Amazon, or go to the bookstore or a used bookstore, or one of these shops that sell like crystal balls and, you know, candles and stuff like that, you can get yourself a copy and read it. The Land of Osiris by Stephen S. Mehler. Until next time, people. Oh yeah, almost forgot. If you like the video, subscribe and hit the like button. Helps me out with the algorithms. Until next time.